Hi. So this video is actually going to be my third attempt to just cover some angle relationships. The vocabulary in this is so heavy. I will later do another video that has a foldable for your interactive notebook. But for now, I just want you to sit back, listen, and watch while I demonstrate some different angle vocabularies and show you some relationships. I'm going to keep this under 10 minutes. I'll probably embed some questions later. So let's get started. The first vocabulary word is congruent. Here you can see I have two angles. Both are marked as 88 degrees. So you can see that they are the same size. This angle and this angle are congruent. Congruent also talks about not only angles, but also sides. So I just quickly drew a square here. We know a square has all sides equal. So if I denote that by putting a slash through each side, I'm showing you that the sides are all congruent. So congruent can be any figure, line, angle that is exactly the same size. Perpendicular. Perpendicular is the meaning where two lines come together and make a right angle. And by the way, you know a right angle is 90 degrees. And in this illustration, I have a set of parallel lines here cut by a transversal, making this 90-degree angle. So what is this angle? Yep, also 90 degrees. And this one? Yeah, what do you know? 90 degrees. Get out of here. This angle? Looky there, also 90 degrees. That just kind of happens there. Okay, parallel lines. You called them railroad tracks when you were younger. It's two lines that will stay the same distance apart forever and eternity. They run parallel. Here we're talking about the transversal again. This red line is my transversal. It is intersecting my set of parallel lines here. So all of the angles that result from this is what we're going to study in standard 3.2 angle relationships. And it usually makes 8 angles. Here, 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 and here, 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 here. We usually number or letter those and then ask you about those relationships. Supplementary is when two angles come together and will equal 180 degrees. Mostly we show them in the same side by side. So you can see that they make this straight angle, this straight line. So this angle here, which is a little more than 90 degrees or a right angle, let's say it's 100 degrees. When added to this angle here it couldn't be 90 degrees. They have to equal 180. So 100 plus 80. But it could be that I'm talking about an angle here, which is 60 degrees, and an angle here, which is 120 degrees. If I said that this angle A plus this angle over here B, they're not touching, they're not in the same illustration, but if I was referring to them together, I could refer to them as being supplementary because together they equal 180 degrees. And I'm sorry about the sloppy writing there. Alrighty. Here, when two angles come together, and yes, my illustration shows them together, what kind of angle are they making? That's right, 90 degrees or a right angle. So this makes them complementary. Mrs. Hobb likes to say a compliment makes you feel right. The two angles are complementary to each other. They complement one another because when you add their degrees together, it will always be 90. Now here in A and B, it looks like they're the same measure, like perhaps they were congruent. But I can do this. Here I might have 88 degrees. And this little bitty angle here could be just a little old measly 2 degrees. And I could say that they together could form a right angle, and they would be 90 degrees. As with my illustration earlier, I can see an angle here, which would be 60 degrees. And randomly, I could have an angle here, which maybe was only 30 degrees. And I could say the two angles together would be complementary because they would be 90 degrees. Again, I think it's helpful for you to see those together. And it's going to be difficult because what I have to work with is a little difficult to draw and write with. But if I said this was 40 degrees and this angle was 50 degrees, these two together would be complementary. And again, so sorry. Complementary. Okay, but if I had two angles that together make this straight angle of 180 degrees, oh, that's so bad. Oh, come on. Even I can't ignore that. That was just horrendous. How about I get a little help from my friends here? If I go down to my menu bar, I can use some help. It's embarrassing, but they're a straight line, and here another straight line. I know. I just couldn't stand it. Let's see. Together, this big angle here of maybe 110 degrees added to this angle here of, say, maybe 70 degrees. When you add them together, since I get 180 degrees, this is an example of supplementary. And, we could spend a lot of time talking about the different ways. The most popular way for me is that, I can look at the C for complementary and I can turn that C into 90 degrees. Or I can look at an S for supplementary and I can change that S into an 8 and make 180 degrees. Moving on. Adjacent. Adjacent means next door neighbors. Here's two houses. Their backyard shares a fence line. They are right next to each other. That means they are adjacent. I have here in the notes, elbow partners. If you're sitting in a classroom where you have someone who sits right next to you at your elbow, that could be your adjacent partner. Vertical angles. Vertical angles I like to call bow tie angles. They're the two congruent, so you can see they're the same size, right across from a shared vertex. So I call these the bow tie angles. Of course, this angle here, this really big angle, and this angle here, this big angle, those are also vertical angles. You can see that they're right across from each other. They're both obtuse. So the green shaded area is also the same size. So vertical angles are bow tie angles. Alternate interior. I meant to underline that. Sorry about that. That means they're on the inside of the parallel lines, but on alternate sides of the transversal. If you were dribbling a basketball with your right hand and then dribbling with your left hand, and all of a sudden your crazy coach yells out, "Hey, alternate your hands." That means to go back and forth on either side. So alternate, it means either side of the transversal. Interior is referring to the interior of the parallel lines there, or the inside. If you buy interior paint, you're buying inside paint. Coming here, you can see alternate exterior. So I bet you figured it out. I'm on the outside. Here's the inside of my parallel lines. I'm now on the outside of my parallel lines, but on the opposite sides of, or alternate sides of the transversal. So both of these angles are on the outside, so they are exterior. And I always ask my kids, are both of your angles on the inside? This angle here and this angle here, both on the inside, so they're the interior angles. Both on the outside, exterior. Okay, corresponding angles. Notice how these four angles are clustered around the vertex of the transversal and the top of my parallel line. And these four angles also are clustered around the vertex here. Well, what would happen if I were to take like a pair of scissors and just go chopping that transversal in half? I can almost see that these four angles would be let loose, and look how they lay exactly on top of the other. So that is corresponding. My notes say they have matching corners because angle 1 matches with 5, angle 3 matches with 7, 2 matches with 6, and 4 matches with 8. So next video, we'll do this flip chart. Hope you got it. Good luck.